In the last two episodes, I've been showing you what it sounded like to call into New York City from its suburbs in Nassau and southern Westchester County, and also from Staten Island. When I got to know the network in 1970, there were about 18 Crossbar 5 offices in Nassau County, each of which had 9 trunk groups heading west into New York City. Each of these trunk groups went to one of 9 sector tandems. We got to know each one by the particular sound of the trunk groups and the ways that the crossbar tandem at the other end tended to act in certain situations. There were small variations, as I said earlier, that were noticeable, but we confirmed that we were right by the recordings. Thanks to the recording IDs, we were able to figure out that New York City was going through 9 sector tandems. And those 9 tandems were
21235.
Queens for northeastern Queens.
This is a recording. 21237.
Richmond Hill Tandem 1 and
L11.
Tandem 2 for most of Queens.
This is a recording. 21231.
Bushwick for the Brooklyn-Queens border area.
This is a recording. 21228.
Brooklyn Tandem for most of Brooklyn.
21232.
King's Tandem for downtown Brooklyn.
I'm sorry. Your call did not go through. Will you please hang up and try again? This is a recording. 21232.
The King's trunks were first-generation T-carrier, as you could hear there. Then there was
21226.
Tremont Tandem for the Bronx and Upper Manhattan.
Recording 21221.
Midtown Tandem for most of Manhattan above 46th Street or so.
I'm sorry. Your call did not go through. Will you please hang up and try again? Recording 21221. I'm sorry. 21213.
Gotham Tandem for Lower Manhattan and Staten Island. And Chelsea Tandem
21242.
for a small swath of Manhattan on the west side, including Hell's Kitchen and Chelsea. Those were the 9 sectors, and everyone had their own unique trunk groups to them. Some of them were wire trunks. Some were N1. Some were N3. There were also some N3 trunks that would not let you hear the outpulsing. Lynbrook 3's N3 trunks to Midtown were like this.
What a nice sound that is. N3 carrier. You listen to it all day.
There were also N1 trunks that did not let you hear the outpulsing. We had trunks to Gotham Tandem like this one. Sometimes in the N1 trunk groups, there would be another kind of carrier mixed in. It is clearly in the N1 family, but I suspect this might be ON carrier because of the way it sounds. Basically like O carrier.
The number you have reached, 876-9902, has been disconnected. 876-9902 has been disconnected.
Here's N1 carrier for comparison.
The number you have reached, 876-9902, has been disconnected. 876-9902 has been disconnected.
This again is the suspected ON carrier trunk. Watch what happens when I hit my hook switch. See, it sort of rings along with the loud click.
This
right. Operator, are you calling 876-9902?
Yes, I am, as a matter of fact.
She released at the end of the question, "Won't take yes for an answer, will you?" Well, then there was, of course, Chelsea Tandem and Kings Tandem, each installed in 1969, and pretty much other than Chelsea and Kings, everybody in Nassau County had trunks like the preceding. But thanks to the fact that Chelsea and Kings were installed in 1969, they came well equipped with the latest and the greatest first-generation T-carrier. That lets you hear the outpulsing. And around 1971, they started adding, and in some cases replacing, the older trunks with this newfangled T-carrier stuff. Then, in 1972, we started seeing the dreaded second-generation T-carrier. That doesn't let you hear the outpulsing. You know, when I first heard this kind of a trunk, it was this brand new 4A that they put in December 1971 called Varick, named after the Varick Street location in downtown Manhattan. Here's getting the recording from Lynbrook 3.
I'm sorry, we're unable to complete your call as dialed. Please check the number and dial again or ask your operator for assistance. 21245.
At first it was easy to ignore Varick 4A. All that happened was that certain office codes in the Manhattan and Bronx area would go through it, but all of my favorite sector tandems were still there. In the summer of 1973, I was happily using Gotham and Midtown to reach various places in the world. Then I went off to Virginia, and when I came back in December 1973, I found that my old gateways to New York City, the 9 trunk groups, were mostly gone. We no longer had Bushwick, Brooklyn, Kings, Tremont, Chelsea, Midtown, or Gotham tandems. The 3 Brooklyn sectors were now going through Garden City, as I described before, but Manhattan and Bronx were now going through Varick, and that meant 1972 type T-carrier. It also meant no longer hearing the outpulsing. To give you an idea of what the typical Varick connection sounded like, here are some calls to Bronx Intercept, well known for their habit of answering the calls. "I'm sorry your call did not go through. May I have the number you're dialing?" From listening to this, you can see what kind of connections we were getting.
Sir, did you get the number?
Yes, I did.
Hang up the phone, please.
Okay. Dialing operator intercept in the Bronx again. This time through 430, which is a Tremont tandem Centrex.
Your call did not go through. May I have the number you're calling?
430-9111.
430-9111. Thank you. There's no such number in New York City. Please check with directory assistance.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Hang up for dial tone, please. Operator leaving the line.
Not too bad, but these connections had no charm, and they were pretty fuzzy as far as these things go.
Sorry, call didn't go through. What number you're calling?
Meanwhile, Garden City, our new route for Brooklyn and northern New Jersey, Didn't have any charm either, but the connections were better. Here's a call to a New Jersey Crossbar 1. We'll listen to the ringtone via Garden City to another 4A in New Jersey, and while the trunk has fuzzy noises added, the ring itself is coming through pretty clearly. Like my tone from Brooklyn, the ring is coming through with very little distortion, just added fuzziness. This really was the beginning of T-Carrier sounding half decent. It culminated in the really good T-Carrier. I can't believe I'm saying good T-Carrier, but it was, of the late 70s. It really hit me that progress had been made when I called the Duluth so-called Sputnik conference from my Atlanta step line and got a connection like this. You know, there's a voice that is so low that on the early T-Carrier would have been lost in the fuzz. It would have just been crackle, crackle. And on N-Carrier, it would have been difficult to hear just because of the high background noise. So anyway, now almost all of New York City is going through this second-generation T-Carrier on the Varick side of things, and this third-generation T-Carrier, better but still not perfect, for the three sectors in Brooklyn and northern New Jersey. And I wondered if the sector tandems were gone. But they weren't. Sometimes, when the circuits were busy, Varick or Garden City would alternate route through the same sector tandems according to the same plan. So there were times when I did get them, albeit through second or third generation T-Carrier as the first link. Here's an example. The following call is to a non-working number in the Pfizer PBX, 573-2323. We're dialing something in the 3400 group that they haven't assigned. It goes from my Lynbrook Crossbar 5 to Varick,
21245.
to Amsterdam Tandem 2,
1219.
to the Pfizer PBX. Amsterdam Tandem 2 is one of 5 crossbar tandems dedicated entirely to direct inward dialing. Almost all of the calls went to PBXs, most of them step, some of them number 101 ESS, and then in the later 70s, other PBX types as well. Anyway, here's the normal route.
The number you have reached is not in service at this time. If you are calling from outside, you can reach our operator by dialing 573-2323. If you are inside, please dial 0 for the Pfizer operator. The number you have dialed is not in service at this time. If you are
My Lynbrook Crossbar 5, MF's 7 digits to Varick, which MF's 7 digits to Amsterdam Tandem 2, which dial pulses 4 digits to the Pfizer PBX.
The number you have reached is not in service at this time.
Notice that this MF incoming trunk to Amsterdam Tandem 2 lets us hear the dial pulsing quite loudly. Now let's call again when the circuits are busy. This time, Varick
21245.
has to use Midtown Tandem
Recording 21221.
to get to Amsterdam Tandem 2.
21219.
You're going to hear the sound of Midtown PCIing, followed by Amsterdam Tandem 2 dial pulsing.
732323.
But because we PCI'd into Amsterdam Tandem 2, we get a different kind of incoming register sender. And then the cut-through, instead of being ta-da-da, it's quite different.
732323.
Here's the whole call now.
If you are inside, please dial 0 for the Pfizer operator. The number you have dialed is not in service at this time. If you are calling from outside, you can reach our operator by dialing 573-2323. If you are inside, please dial 0 for the Pfizer operator. This is a recording. The number you have reached.
Here's Amsterdam when Varick MF's in. And here it is when Midtown PCI's in. Same tandem, different face. But you know what's wrong with this. The Varick T-Carrier has no charm, and it ain't that great. And there are more charming and quaint ways to hear PCI to Amsterdam. So let's eliminate Varick. The way we can do that is go to a place that still has direct trunks to Midtown and sends 573 there. Just so happens that right over the edge into Queens County, there's a central office called Laurelton. It has both number 1 crossbar and number 5 crossbar payphones. The 5-bar phones are outside, and from there, they still have Midtown tandem. Special coin trunks, too. Here's a call to 573, except this time I'm going to call a working number in the number 101 ESS PBX serving the Borden Company. Elsie? Oh, I'm sorry, wrong number. What a wonderful long wire trunk. Well, there's an even eerier one from Newdorp.
non-working number at Borden's New York office. Please dial 573-4000 for operator assistance. Thank you.
We can get even one step closer to Amsterdam Tandem 2 by going to a place that PCIs to it directly, the West 73rd Street panel. When we dial a number at Pfizer, or Borden's, or NYU for that matter, it PCIs directly to Amsterdam 2.
University.
That was the main number, you can tell, because Amsterdam only dialed one digit, a 0, into the PBX. Let's make another call. This time it'll dial 4 digits. As we dial these various PBXs that go through Amsterdam Tandem 2 from West 73rd, we go through connections that are all wire and all short. There's a wire trunk that's less than 5 miles long to the tandem, and then another short trunk to the PBX. So it's an all short wire environment. Let's make a few more of these short wire calls via Amsterdam 2. This is the type of busy signal that is the most talkable, and it's one of two possibilities that goes with those raucous, rural-sounding rings. Next, a more typical PBX busy signal. Wow, you can hear every overtone that thing has. There's no resonance on these trunks. They're just straight through, and they don't have any squeal from the repeaters of adjacent trunks either. As a reference on just how non-resonant these trunks are, let's call AIS.
What number are you calling, please?
340-9901.
Thank you.
The number you have reached, 340-9901, is not in service. In area code 212, please check the number and dial again. 340-9901 is not in service. In area code 212.
These trunks are amazing, and we're lucky to have this on open reel tape. It's just pure analog clarity without a lot of analog defects. It's almost like T-Carrier. Or is it? The thing about T-Carrier when it's well adjusted is that it doesn't have any resonance. Let's just listen to a ringtone. Now this is two third-generation T-Carrier links through two 4As. That sounds pretty good. It's a fairly pleasant picture, actually. But it's really not the same as analog. I mean, this just sounds like if you somehow had a lot of detailed data about the sound, and you used that data to sort of conjure it up, a pseudo-analog facsimile of the original would sound like that. Huh. Now let's hear something really beautiful. This goes down to 140 West Street. It's the Beekman 3 Crossbar 1. This is a direct wire trunk from Schuyler 4, the West 73rd Street panel. This is analog perfection. T-Carrier can't even come close. Now here's something I had not noticed at the time, but it's very clear from listening to the tapes. This trunk goes from West 73rd Street to 140 West Street, and it's really good. Still, it has some resonance, and idle trunks in the same group squeal, and you can hear that on this trunk. It still sounds great, but it does not sound as good as the trunks to another entity at 140 West Street. That switching entity is...
I'm sorry, we are unable to complete your call as dialed. Please check the number and dial again, or ask your operator for assistance. This is a recording, 2127.
That's one name for it. Here's another as dialed from here. The Centrex tandem that gives you a busy signal instead of a recording. That's another way that it's known. Also known as VZ Tandem 2, one of the other Centrex tandems, also called DID tandems. VZ Tandem 2 is the oldest one, and when you PCI into it, it sounds different from Amsterdam. The outpulsing sounds are the loudest of any crossbar tandem. You almost think that it isn't a PCI trunk until you hear it go blah, or whatever you call that. And that's quite different from Amsterdam's thin little pulsing noises and relatively thin cut-through sound. The PCI-operated trunks from here to VZ Tandem 2 are even better than the Beekman 3 RP trunks. This must indicate that to make PCI work right, they have very exacting standards for the wire lines. Makes sense because it's a series of pulses and pauses that include two different levels and two different polarities. To make all that work right, looks like they couldn't use the regular old repeaters. Here now are some VZ2 Centrex calls. Not a squeal in sight. No noticeable resonance. Well, maybe a little on that tick. Anyway, the next two calls end up on a number 101 ESS PBX. This is a pulse amplitude modulation based switch. You might notice the supervision handshake right before VZ starts dialing.
This is Reynolds Securities Incorporated. The number you have reached is not working at this time. For further information, please call 558-6000.
The 101 ESS intercept was always a 7A announcement like that would just play once. No conferences. When you hear somebody come in flash and touchtone and all that, that's me on my other line. This is an intercept line in a step PBX. That is an actual step PBX dial tone. The busy signal is mixed in just because that particular PBX has mixed up tones, as we heard on the previous call. This was recorded at night. In a moment you'll hear the PCI crosstalk from my call on my other line coming in.
Greetings. This is 55366 and 67. The only other thing in 553, which I've already recorded the ring and busy, is 50365.
By the way, that ominous tick that came on
Greetings.
right there, that's the trunk in the West 73rd panel at my end, registering that brief supervision flash. It's now going to time me out. I may even be charged a message unit. Not sure with these panel offices, because when it came to detecting answer supervision and charging message units, there was often more than one system in operation, and you could hear them because of certain clicks. We'll eventually get into that. Well, that's the end of this segment almost. And I'm so glad I was able to introduce you to two of the Centrex tandems, give you such a close-up view on it. And the West 73rd Street panel, if anyone has any doubts that the telephone network was a thing of beauty, you've just heard the proof that it really was. Wow. Just amazing. Well, we've traveled from T-carrier discouragement to analog wire perfection. And what comes next is analog cacophony. If you've ever wondered why Ben went all around the city, recording every panel in Crossbar 1 he could, comparing the West 73rd panel at night to the next one in the daytime will answer that question. Each one had its own sound. Some were beautiful. Others were just a fascinating windstorm of analog activity. That's what's coming next. In the meantime, here are two extra calls, one through Amsterdam and one to Veezy, to some intercept lines that actually have working recordings.
You have reached a non-working number at RCA. If you have dialed from outside the company, please redial 598-5900. If you have dialed from within the company, please consult your internal directory. You have reached a non-working number at RCA. If you have dialed from outside the company, please redial 598-5900. If you have dialed from within the company, please consult your internal directory. You have reached a non-working number at RCA.
consult your directory or dial 8, then 0 for our operator. This is a recorded announcement. You have reached a non-working number at the Bank of New York. If you are calling from the outside, you can reach our operator by dialing 530-1784. If you are inside, please consult your directory or dial 8, then 0 for our operator. This is a recorded announcement. You have reached a non-working number at the Bank of New York. If you are calling from the outside, you can reach our operator by dialing 530-1784. If you are inside, please consult your directory or dial 8, then 0 for our operator. This is a recorded announcement. You have reached a non-working number at the Bank of New York. If you are calling from the outside, you can reach our operator by dialing 530-1784. If you are inside, please consult your directory or dial 8, then 0 for our operator. This is a recorded announcement. You have reached a non-working number at the Bank of New York.